Let's bring in our TSN hockey insider, the earthquake surviving, cold weather surviving. Mike Johnson joins us, as always, a presentation of the Myers Automotive Group. How you doing this morning, MJ?
I am doing very well. It was an early start, and can you believe it? We had to de-ice on the plane in April. What is going on in the world? But yes, it was, you know what? It was an interesting weekend for Ottawa. Two tough opponents. Everyone frustrated after the game on Saturday, even though, down at ice level, felt like they played really hard. They just ran into a team that was awesome that day, and they didn't have any answers. And then really good yesterday against Carolina. That was a really good game on a lot of different levels. So they're in a good spot. I know it's very close and teams are right on their heels, but they have the tiebreaker on all the teams that are chasing them. They are in eighth. They have more games left. They're in a good spot. That win yesterday was very significant for them.
You got the full Ottawa experience, I think, in the back-to-back. It's fair to say Minnesota out Ottawa, and then Ottawa out Carolina. Like, is that fair? Like, the style of games, both of them, as Sens fans were mad after the game on Saturday. But it's not, to your point, I don't think they played terrible. Could they play better? Of course, when you lose a game, you can say that. But Minnesota they just squeeze the life out of that game. And Ottawa does that to a lot of teams. And then the Sens kind of got back to it, and they did it to Carolina last night.
Yeah, it's not a bad analogy, really. You think about Ottawa when they're good, they're on the forecheck, they play in the offensive zone, they're very physical, they don't give you much. Well, that was Saturday for Minnesota, except Minnesota was better at it than Ottawa. And they were so heavy on the puck the entire game. Once it was 2-0, the entire game was played on the boards. I was getting frustrated calling it. I'm not even playing the game. I'm like, There's no space. Can someone please let me skate 3 strides without bumping into me? There was just nothing there. And they did try. They did play heavy. They did play hard, but Minnesota was just a little bit better. And, that showed Minnesota why they're a good team. And then Carolina, you have to skate and you have to get up and down the ice and you have to be physical because that's what Carolina forces you to do. But you're exactly right in that Ottawa was better than Carolina at that game yesterday. And you could tell right away just the movement. And maybe they're a little bit fresher with the travel to Carolina. Maybe they're more frustrated, more desperate. But just the pace that the top guys played with to start the game. And I was trying to express it, but when you, like a greater sense of like commitment to the physicality of the altercation. Where, we go in there, we battle, and we're doing our best to get it. But there's moments where, I go in there and it's just a little bit heavier and a little bit harder and a little bit meaner. And Ottawa had that in all their collisions and their battles yesterday. So Carolina usually outshoots and out-attempts and plays the offensive zone the entire game. That's what they do every single game. Wasn't the case. It was, once again, Ottawa outshooting Carolina to the point where it made me wonder, that's a first-round matchup if it ends the way it ends. I don't think Ottawa is getting anywhere but 8th, right?
Yeah.
That's where they're going to finish.
Yep.
So it's going to be Tampa or Carolina. Carolina would not be the worst matchup in the world. Yeah, they're really good. They didn't have Jordan Staal or whatever, but 3 games this year, Ottawa's played Carolina. They outshot them each time. If their goaltending holds up, that wouldn't be the worst matchup. But it was a really, really good game, especially led by the top players.
Yeah, that was we were discussing that about, you just look at the score sheet, right? It's all the big guys got in the score sheet yesterday. I did want to ask you, Ottawa's got 258 goals this year. I just looked at it, and I know you don't remember many of them, nor do I. Quite frankly, my memory is not as good as it used to be. But what was it like to be at ice level to watch that Stutzle goal yesterday?
Amazing, breathtaking stuff. And again, I'm right there, so I could see him pop off the bench and get the first puck. And I think I almost chimed in like, oh, here he goes, because you can see him turn up. And then I'm thinking, does he really have it? And I was thinking, well, maybe he can get sort of even with Miller and Walker and draw a penalty or draw them in and look for a pass. The fact that he was able to split the defense and then get that separation where they were barely even putting a stick on him, that was Connor McDavid at Connor McDavid's best. That's what he does, right? Flies through guys and then somehow slows down at the net to make a play and work the edges. It was spectacular stuff. There are not many players in the entire league. I mean, I don't know, under 15 in the entire league that could do that like that. That was as good as I have seen in person the entire season. Just brilliant, brilliant stuff from Timmy. And but you know what? You get that power play goal early. Stutzle picks up an assist. We've often said points go to good players' legs, right, and their hands. And he gets the power play goals or assist, and he's flying around, and just a spectacular individual effort. And I think he caught the defenseman off guard. Like, they thought they had an angle, and they had nothing but air to wave at. One of the best goals that you're going to see the entire season.
He outskated two angles on both D. Like it was incredible. And mentioned this earlier as well. So Travis Green mentioned postgame a little bit Saturday, and it was brought up again yesterday. He wanted more out of certain guys. He didn't name names, but coaches don't say that about depth players, right?
That's
I'm
right.
sure he was talking about Stutzle. He was probably talking about Tkachuk. He's talking about everybody that contributed big time yesterday. So the coach subtly, to us, and maybe more directly behind the closed doors, who knows, he wanted more from his guys, and he got it.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to be mindful how often you go to the whip, right? Like how often you publicly sort of call out guys, especially your top guys. But he was right, because I think Drake Batherson was one of those guys he was referring to as well, because he didn't have, he got demoted during the Minnesota game.
He could have had 3 yesterday.
He should have had 7. I mean, we had so many chances, kept firing it over the net or having them tipped or whatever, but he was really good, and message received, and that's all you can hope for. You deliver the message. It's sort of a polite way, because he didn't say, Tim, Brady, Drake, we can't win if they're not better. He just said, we have 3-4 guys that weren't as good as they need to be. But if you're one of those guys, and I've been one of those guys in the team, like, he's talking about you. You know that your role is important enough that he is referring to you, and it lands, and so it resonates, and you're like, okay, I got to be better, and they were, and you're wondering, Carolina can make life really miserable for teams, and would they have a chance to be better? But right from the drop, they were just fast enough that they were creating lots of open ice and places to skate, and that's when they're at their best. So that's what they'll need. That's what they'll need down the stretch and on into the playoffs if they get there. But that was, top guys. Everybody across the board. Quick little note: Michael Amadio is not a sexy player, respectfully speaking, right? Like, he is just meat and potatoes. But when you watch the game closely, or when I'm down between the benches, enough to like pick up on all the details, that guy is a guy that winning teams want. That guy is a guy that coaches will trust and will help you when it gets the hardest, even if he won't get 70 points. He's a really good player. I thought he was good in the game yesterday. And Claude Giroux, also one of his best games, not because he had an empty netter, but just the way he was all around the puck and moving, also really good against Carolina.
Amadio, he's a poor man's Mark Stone. He's not going to put up the points like a Stone, but puck battles, heavy on the stick, make his line mates better. Just everybody loves to play with him. Where I was going next, though, okay, cards on the table. It was Easter dinner, MJ. The game was kind of on, so I rewatched the game when later last night, and I picked up this. You guys threw up a graphic, and I'm like, wow, Dylan Cousins, only guy in the league with 25 goals and 200 hits, and he had his leg last night as well.
Yeah, and when you watch, I've been actually skated with Dylan in a charity thing this summer, so the first time being on the ice with him. Couple things stand out about him. One, he's really big. He's like whatever I am. I'm 6'2" and change, and he's much bigger feeling than me. But because he's so big, he doesn't feel like he's a good skater. Like, he just feels sort of average. He's got a rangy, and he's long limbs. Doesn't look like he's moving that fast. But when you watch him again, he is actually a very good skater. And then that frame, he used it to bump around. And to be the only guy, that's a pretty good number, right? Came round numbers, 25 and 200. Brady Tkachuk had done it 4 years in a row prior to this season. He's not there yet, but that tells you the kind of player you're getting. And yeah, he's got a sneaky release again. Being on the ice with him and skating with him, and I'm kind of watching him take these what look like wrist shots. Like, is Wendell Clark out here like taking wrist shots? What is this? Nobody takes these kind of shots anymore. But he shoots it unusually old school, but it's tricky for goaltenders. Like, he fools goalies all the time. So he's had a nice year. He's had a good year showing why Ottawa went and got him. He does some things uniquely, and he's a great complement. If Tim is like flash and dash and smaller and speedy, Dylan's more methodical, bigger, heavier. Both are really good, but both complement each other, and that they're different that way. And yeah, he's had a really sort of consistent, physical, strong year.
Jake Sanderson got back in the lineup. It was up in the air, but got back in for both games on the weekend. So he missed 13 games in total. The Sens went 8-4-1, which when you think about, you add Shabbat was out for about half of those games as well. So you're out without your top two guys. The fact they were able to kind of survive and actually sort of, be points percentage wise better than they have been for most of the year. What did you see from Sanderson's game? Maybe even an involvement from Saturday into Sunday's game.
Well, I mean, talk about not easing your way into the lineup. I mean, he goes in there with Shabbat's out and Levin's out now, and he's going to play the Minnesota, who's going to target a guy. If you know a guy's coming off a shoulder injury, you're not trying to be brutal about it, but yeah, like, you're trying to make his life really difficult physically. And right away, though, he was moving around comfortably, certainly showing no ill effects with his shot. Like, he had a couple big one-timers and slappers, which, if there was a strength or a range of motion issue, maybe he might be hesitant to do that. He wasn't. The good news about having a bad shoulder is that your legs can work and you're allowed to skate. And I thought that he was doing what he does exceptionally well, which is get back for pucks and try to break them out. He played, 25 minutes against Minnesota? I'm not even sure what he had against Carolina, maybe a little bit less because they were winning at the end. But he looked comfortable, and I didn't see any situations where he looked compromised or he looked like he was hesitating or a little timid because of his shoulder. And I think that's the most important thing. Like, he didn't look like he was worried about it, which is why you wait as long as they had to. And he never looked like, he was trying to lift a stick. You see a grimace on his face, or he comes to the bench and he's working it through. There was no sign outwardly that anything was bothering him at all. And that's what you're hoping for when you go through two games like that.
Cam Crotty is the 13th different D to play for Ottawa this season. Now, Donovan Sabrango is included in that before he was claimed off waivers, right? And I would say that Cam Crotty is 13th on the depth chart. He played the fourth most minutes yesterday, ahead of Matt and Paolo and Thompson, and was killing penalties. And Thompson, they played together quite a bit yesterday, Mike, which I was a little surprised at against a quality opponent like Carolina, but maybe it speaks to what the coaching staff has a little bit of trust in their depth there, because they took some shifts together, and that hasn't happened a lot since guys started dropping like flies or spotting these inexperienced guys with a veteran guy.
Yeah, they did. Although I thought, when they had a fourth line of Kotkaniemi, Delorier, and Eric Robinson, that should be a line that you can be comfortable with, depth defensemen out there against, because they don't threaten you that way. But the thing I've noticed about Crotty, he's big, and he's not afraid to run into people. Like, he sort of clears out space when there's a collision, and he's strong in front of the net. So, yeah, he's maybe not the most mobile, and maybe he's not, a dynamic puck mover, but it feels like, without knowing his game at all, I have, full disclosure, I've never seen him play at any point in my life before this weekend. But it feels like he knows who he is. Like, he's not trying to do things that he can't do. He's not playing outside his game. He's like, okay, I'm stay at home, physical, glassing out, clear the net, and just, move it up. And he's done that relatively well, about as well as you could possibly hope for a guy that's far down the depth chart. So they're good on him. And, with the length of time, I don't know if any defenseman is coming back. Like, I'm not sure, Clevin feels like he's going to be out for a while. Shabbat's going to be out for a while. Jensen's already out for a while. Maybe it's Gilbert. I don't even know, but he might have to keep playing. So it's a good sign that he's getting comfortable and that the coaching staff is getting comfortable in what he can do and using him not just 5 minutes or 7 minutes, but like, you need your third pair to get, 10, 12, 14 minutes and not be terrified if they're on the ice, especially as they finish up this homestand and then finish the year on the road. Like, you can't hide them everywhere. So you got to get a little bit more comfortable. It seems like they're starting to.
So Ottawa has for the most part kept its head above water, and that was a big 2 wins out of 3 on the long Easter weekend. And meanwhile, the Chasers, a lot of the Chasers, other than Philadelphia, not
Mm-hmm.
only are losing, they're not even get loser points. So I've got Detroit has lost 6 out of 8 in regulation. Columbus has lost 6 in a row, 5 in regulation. The Islanders have
Mm-hmm.
lost 4 in a row, 7 of 10. They fired their coach yesterday, which we can get to in just a second. I think between those 3 teams, let's talk about those 3 in particular. It's all different circumstances, right? Columbus had to come from way back, and maybe it's just kind of like you get there and then you just kind of run out of gas. Detroit, it feels like kind of the usual late season collapse is happening again. And the Islanders, as we said, just fired the coach. So maybe if you could just maybe a comment on the 3 of those teams that right now are the Chasers as far as Ottawa goes.
Yeah, I mean, we start with Columbus, who went on such a crazy run after Rick Bowness took over. An unsustainable run. They were scoring goals at a rate that they had not shown an ability to do. And that's not really on a coach. That's sort of a hot streak and whatever's going well for them. And they've come crashing down to earth. They can't score anymore. And their defense has been okay, but this is sort of predictable. It's hard to have a run that was going to have to last, 10 weeks maybe to get them in? Like, it's not how hockey works. Like, at some point, you cool off, the odds flip back to where they should, and you're in trouble. But it's the no extra points. Like, losing games in regulation hurts, but I think it's just reality has caught up to them that they're going to have a hard time sustaining that run the whole season. The Islanders, they're sort of scrappy. They've depended on their goaltending a lot, and the goaltending has been good all year. But this last little stretch, they've been giving up lots of goals where I don't know if that they're playing that poorly. It's just the goaltenders are not bailing them out. And Sorokin, who was a Vezina winner maybe 4 weeks ago, now he's maybe just a finalist, as his numbers have gone up a little bit. They need their goalies to really win them games. And if they don't, then they're not as good as their record maybe would indicate. So that's been their issue. And Detroit, this one will sting, guys. Because the Red Wings, I think I read it somewhere, at the end of January, Detroit was 4th in the league standings. In the league. And since that moment, they're the 3rd or 4th worst team in the whole league. And it's hard to explain. Their struggles in March are well documented. Now it's March on into April. It's just all sort of falling apart. Like, that penalty, if it was to a lesser player than Patrick Kane, they would be a major story for taking that penalty on Quinn Hughes late in yesterday's game. They're just finding ways to lose, and Steve Yzerman must be pulling his hair out because he would be so frustrated to have them be really close again, and it looks like probably come up short again at the very tail end. It's just sort of gotten away from them. But again, I think the reality is for all those teams, the Islanders, the Red Wings, and the Blue Jackets, is they're all good, but they're not that good. You know what I mean? Like, they are kind of where they should be, right around the playoff bubble. None of them are underperforming to finish with 95 points. Like, that would be a good year for all of them. So I don't know, how much you could expect over the course of 82 games that they do much better than they've done. They're sort of where they are supposed to be.
We only have one Sunday left in the regular season. Another coach going to get fired on a Sunday? We're on a roll here. What? Okay, so Pete DeBoer gets a 4-year deal apparently on top of it. Was that more about we're probably going to move on, we want to make sure we get DeBoer, so let's do this now? What do you make of that? 4 games left in their season, and Patrick Waugh has been fired by the Islanders.
Yeah, and Patrick Waugh would have had his team sort of overachieving, I think, up until the last week. I think it really is Matthew Darche just going to get the coach he wanted. And Patrick Waugh and him they seem to have a pretty good relationship. You inherit the coach, and so you see if it works. It was working mostly, but there's probably a sense of urgency on 2 fronts. One, the obvious one, they've lost 4 in a row, trying to get a last-minute, desperate new coach bump. They're only 1 point behind Ottawa, 1 point behind Philadelphia. If they win through the next 4, there's a chance they get in the playoffs. So you have that, right? Like, salvage this year, make a change if you didn't think it was going to go. But then the other urgency is if you see Pete DeBoer out there and we're coming up on the end of the season and you really want him, well, now you're like, well, hang on. We see Torts jumping into the fray late, will the Leafs change their coach? maybe the guy you want might not be available if you keep waiting and wait through a round of the playoffs, which takes 2 more weeks. Like, you sort of run out of runway to maybe get the guy you want. So on both fronts, there was urgency, and Matthew Darce goes out and gets the guy he probably always wanted, gets a big contract, and we'll see if he can help this year, but it'll certainly help probably going into next.
Okay, certainly apologize for the cold weather you faced here in Ottawa on the weekend. I can tell you that as of Thursday, which is the first day of the Masters as well, it's going to be above double digits from then forward here in Ottawa. So is there any chance we could get you back between like Thursday and the end of the season, or are you done here now?
I'm hauling the games next weekend down in New York, so
Okay,
I will be with the
that doesn't
Sens,
count,
but
yeah.
I will not be in Ottawa.
Okay.
Maybe I'll come for the playoffs. How's that? If they make the playoffs, I'll drag the panel out there, and we can do games 3 or 4 when they're going to be at home and the weather will be balmy, and we can play golf before the game.
Well, you got to hang out with Hammer then, because Hammer's going down to those games with his family on the weekend that you're working.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's going to be in one.
If
be
you've
good.
not been to the Islanders' new rink, it's really, really nice. Like, it's sort of out in the middle of nowhere, which will feel familiar for Ottawa, but it's really, really nice. Like, it's the way it looks and the inside and everything. It's one of the better rinks in the league.
Yeah, I've heard that they have looked at that one, Detroit, Little Caesars, and Edmonton, and I think Seattle.
Yeah, the Reno there.
Yeah, those are the kind of the 4 that they're looking at the new rink here that they've kind of, examining more closely as far as what the new rink here might look like. So there you go.
That wouldn't be bad, either one of those. The Seattle one's weird, though, because you sort of enter on the top of the rink, and it's all below ground. Like, you walk in the high concourse, and then you walk straight down to the lower levels. But yeah, exciting times anyways. But yeah, it'll be a good weekend in New York, and we'll see how back-to-backs, another 1 and 1 o'clock Saturday and a 7 o'clock Sunday set for the Sens, which means Linus Ullmark can play both games again.
There you go.
Because he did that 3 weeks ago. He did it this weekend, and he can do it, and he probably will do it again next weekend.
Yeah, we could, a week from today, we could be talking. If the Sens win all 4 games this week, which is a tall order, I understand, they will have clinched the playoff spot.
Right.
So there we go. You could be there for it. Anyway, appreciate the time and the insight. Glad to hear you had a good weekend in Ottawa, and we will chat again later in the week.
All right, fellas. Have a good week. We'll talk soon.